So again, welcome to your June Professional Development Program Talking Circle. Before we get started, let's go ahead and get this cleaned.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
Okay, now that we got this clean, let's look at today's agenda. So we're going to be have a lot of discussion. The first discussion is around PD stipend uses, and then the second one is around STEM in teacher training. And the reason why these two topics sort of floated to the top was we've been hearing a lot of interest in these two areas, particularly in the office hours, as well as in the last PD meeting. So we wanted to make sure, because there was such great interest from the PD grantees, that we provided some time for you folks to share and discuss any of your ideas or what you're actually doing or some challenges related to both PD stipend use as well as STEM in teacher training programs. And then we'll round up our session today with some reminders and upcoming events. Before we jump in, I wanted to say hi, aloha, and good morning to Bianca Williams, your interim PD program officer. Hey, Bianca.
Hi, everyone. I'm looking forward to hearing about all your ideas and plans on using those different stipends. Being the interim, hearing from you all helped me do my job. You're in the field and you know what's working and what's beneficial for the participants. So I do thank you for joining, and I know that this knowledge will be passed on to many people who needs it.
Awesome. And then who am I? I'm Olani. I'm Olani Lilia. I'm your TA coach today. I'm going to be facilitating our discussion in this talking circle today. So let's jump right in. Again, during our last office hours, as well as the last PD talking circle, several of you folks mentioned that you wanted to sort of share or get ideas from each other regarding the use of participant stipends. So let's go ahead and look at some, get ready for the discussion. So basically, I wanted to ground this conversation in what the actual NIA said regarding stipends. And so as you can see here, these were the different ways in which you could utilize stipends, both to fully finance a student's educational expenses. Sorry, having difficulty talking this morning. That included tuition, books, required fees, insurance, also stipend-dependent allowance care, technology costs, program required travel and or instructional supplies. And then you can see that second bullet there, supplement other financial aid, including federal funding other than loans. The maximum stipend amount you can see there was $1,800 per month for full-time students. And grantees may also provide participants with a $300 allowance per month per dependent during an academic term. And so you can sort of see how the grant program structured it. But I know that there have been in the actual implementation, there's been some challenges and a lot of solutions that you've overcome the challenges. And so that's really what we want to get into today. Again, you folks are the experts. And like Bianca said, you're on the ground doing this. And so you are really going to be helping each other to, I guess, share ideas and again, overcome challenges. So we really want to hear from you. This is your talking circle. So let's look at some of these questions that I wanted to pose. And again, these questions come from your peers. And so you jumping on and talking will really help each other out. And so I guess we wanted to just do a first broad question about how are you utilizing stipends? And you don't have to take these in order. If one question sort of really stands out to you and you want to address it, you can go ahead and address it. And please come off of mute. Would love to hear your voices. So how are you utilizing your stipends?
Well, I can start for you, Alani, just for what we're doing in the professional development grant at United Tribes.
Thank you.
So, as always, so that we have this threshold of $1,800.
Mhm.
And so at United Tribes is unique in that they have housing there for their students. Okay, so and their housing costs are folded into their entire student account, which is tuition, books, fees, technology, all those things. And so I'm mindful of the $1,800 threshold per month that I could give each participant, and I don't pay them that full amount. You know, I started at a lower amount, and I think now we're up to $800 a month, which is higher. And I know that for some that might seem like, oh, Carmelita, what are you doing? But it was a lower, and then I added on because over the winter, groceries became hard.
Right.
And 98% of my participants are women with children. I have one male.
Wow.
An elementary teacher, so this is an undergrad.
Yeah.
So what I've done was I've provided them support in the stipend is for basic needs, and being able to have a home for them and their children on campus is a basic need. So part of their stipend allowance is actually going to help them with their housing. And
Nice.
even yet, we still don't pay out the full $1,800, but I always have it in there just in case something happens.
Mhm.
Before Angela moved to a new position, I had a phone conversation with her because as my students came back from the fall semester into spring, they had a significant burden with regard to unpaid childcare. And again, United Tribes has a childcare facility on campus. And so, and it's a much reduced rate than what they would find in town, but nonetheless, per child, there was childcare. So I never wrote in my proposal that I was going to cover childcare, but I had supplementary funds. And so we had a conversation. I wrote and voiced, and we had a conversation, and she says, I see that this is important. We need to do this. So I sent her an email verifying our conversation, and then a revised budget that showed how we were doing it. And so we added on childcare to participants. As in this winter, it just got to be really bad because groceries were high, fuel was high, you know, just general living expenses for these young women was a lot, and they don't always have partners. And so so they're the means of support for their families. And I think that that's been a huge lift off of their mind, that they know they have a place that they're going to live and it's stable while they're in college, you know, and they're not having to get an apartment, because the rates for housing on campus are much less than, you know, a fraction of what they could get an apartment with a child. And then now they have to commute out to campus, you know, just, and then to drop off for daycare. This way they're on campus, they drop their children off in their daycare, and they go right across the street and they're in class.
Nice.
So it's like ding, ding, ding. And it's, I find that to be super helpful. And the students tell me it's made a difference. And so they don't worry about it. We're not, you know, if we were ever to have a question, I could say, well, this is just part of their stipend. If I would have given them the full $1,800, that some of it would go to housing, their basic needs, where they're going to stay. And so instead, I I left the stipend as it is, but taken on the responsibility of on-campus housing only. I don't pay off-campus housing at all. And they know that, and they all live on campus anyway, you know, because of the affordability. That's just my take on it.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, what a wonderful support, right? I mean, that you can live on campus, you can go to school, your childcare is on campus. I mean, that just relieves so many different logistical things you have to do in life, and you can concentrate on your school and your courses. That's awesome. How do you, I have a question, like, does everyone get the 800, or do you adjust based on like the years that they've been in the program, or?
No, everyone is treated the same. We have equity across the entire, that would never, Alani, that would That would not be good. If
Yeah.
some were receiving 800 because they've been in the program for a year and the others were receiving 700 because they just started. No, we're all the same.
Okay.
You know, the expectation for every student, whether this is their first semester or their fifth,
Mhm.
is the same. I want them to succeed. That's
Okay.
it. That's
Awesome.
it. And the thing is that there's changes because maybe they don't all go to bureau schools. And so if they don't go to bureau schools, they don't have that burden of a $400 background check out of Albuquerque, right?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
a federal check. And so if we don't have that and we have money towards the end of the semester or the actual grant term,
Mhm.
and I see that there's extra dollars, I'll help them, you know, with extra support equally across to everyone to allow them maybe to get ready for the fall semester or whatever it is, you know, because I'd rather put it in tuition or to participant support
Right.
that would help them get to the first class in the fall, you know, or whatever.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Carmelita. Anyone else? We'd love to hear from, you know, a bunch of you regarding your stipend, how you use it. Any of these questions here, what percentage of students are taking advantage of it? Is it all your students that take advantage of the stipend?
Hi, this is Susie from Stone Child College. We also offer a monthly stipend. So far, all of our participants take advantage of the stipend. Like Carmelita, ours are used mostly for the students' general needs. And because of the economy and COVID and the fact that everything is getting more expensive, we did put in a request because we were offering $1,000 a month, and then they would get an extra $100 for childcare. We had requested to increase that. So now we offer $1,500 a month. And then if they need childcare or if they have dependents, they get an extra 100. And listening to our students, we don't have on-campus housing. So a lot of our students are using their stipend money for their housing or for groceries or for gas to get to campus.
Yeah.
Because you know they don't get it unless they're going to school full time. Most of our students, of course, can't work, and so this is just supplementing their income because we have a lot of students who would not be able to attend full time if they didn't have some sort of income coming in. They, like Carmelita said, most of our students also have families, and this allows most of them to not have to worry about having a full-time job. They can focus their time and effort on their studies, and this really helps them out with paying some of their monthly bills.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Others? How are you using your participant stipend?
I was also going to add, Alani, that I have a graduate program as well, and the graduate students do not receive a stipend for two reasons. One, they're not full-time enrolled.
Yeah.
And they're in graduate school, and it's a 3-year training, and they go all year. A lot of my undergrads don't go in the summertime. Some will and can, but it's not required. But they also are working. And so we talk about that right up front because many of them have been in programs in the PD program for the undergrad and moved right into graduate. And so they always ask, well, is there a stipend with that as well? I said, no, there's not a stipend. But what I have found is that some of them will apply for financial aid because they can.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole different conversation, Alani, about what do you do with grad students that accept financial aid. That's a whole different conversation. But anyway, grad students do not get the stipend.
Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification and the difference between the two.
So Lonnie, I can share something on the accountability measures if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we also do here at Teach to Reach, our students are all over the state of Oklahoma. So accountability may look a little different because we don't see them in person very often. So we also do $1,000 a month on our current cohort. That can be adjusted if, let's say, we do a funding package when they first start. So we start everyone at $1,000 per month for a maximum of 20,000 if they're on the program for 4 semesters. So if something were to happen and then they had to go an extra semester, we can look at either lowering that stipend, or they can maybe they just had to attend for the summer, but they were able to work full time. So we're a little flexible with each individual student and to use it to their needs. And again, for general living expenses. But so what we do is we have an attendance log that they turn in at the end of each month. And they can either, for online courses, they can submit their grades to show that they're making satisfactory progress. Or for in-person classes, we've been asking for instructor signatures. So that just verifies they are attending, they are still in good academic standing, and it's kind of just a monthly check-in for us. Most of our students do take advantage of the stipends. We've had a couple that were already working in a school system, so they did not need it because they were working full-time. And then others just needed the stipend. They had so many scholarships, they didn't need the tuition, book, and fee allowance. So again, we try to tailor it to each individual student. Probably the biggest challenge is sometimes getting those instructor signatures, especially during COVID. We had to rethink how we were doing everything because everything switched to online. So as long as we get something showing their grades are going well, we also do monthly Zoom meetings to check in with everyone. So we feel like we're still in contact with them, even though they are all over the state. But that was our biggest challenge, I would say, was getting those signatures.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Anyone else want to share? Even if you maybe might have a question of your peers, maybe you're facing a challenge, you'd like to get some, some thought partners around a particular challenge as it relates to the stipend. Now would be the time to ask your peers.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
So there's been a few students who, for whatever reason, when they registered for a semester, they were not able to take 12 credits. Somebody I could think of in particular, he was close to graduation. He needed, I believe, 2 classes and then he could graduate. So he didn't need 12 credits. He was ready to graduate. He only needed the 2.
Right.
I do know that according to our policies and procedures, they only receive a stipend if they're full-time, so 12 credits or greater. Has anybody ever thought of, or are we allowed to possibly prorate their stipend, maybe give them a partial stipend, especially if they're in a situation where it's, for whatever reason, they didn't need the full 12 credits, or maybe a class wasn't offered, so they couldn't take a full 12 credits. This happens in our summer classes because full-time summer status is considered 6 credits. So if they sign up for 6 credits, they're considered full-time. Does anybody, sorry about that. Does anybody have any, is there anything they're doing about those sorts of situations?
Well, Susan, this is Carmelita. We 6 credits is full-time enrolled, and if I have undergrads and 6 credits in the summer, they receive a stipend because that's considered full-time enrolled at United Tribes. And
that's how we interpreted that as well.
Yeah, I believe that I had corresponded with Angela at some time, years ago.
I believe so.
I had undergrads who were seeking to take particularly enrichment courses like STEM enrichment courses, Google technology courses when we were in the COVID throes. And so we were offering Google training and as a special topics for 2 credits at the undergrad level. And so they would take a full semester in the summer, 6 credits. And then so they were eligible and they will receive a stipend.
Yeah.
But they weren't working either though. They still weren't working. They couldn't,
Same here. Yeah.
Couldn't work that 21. I say, if you get 21 hours on your time card, you're too much. You can take 18, but not 21. You know what I mean? It's because they're not supposed to be over 20 according to the federal regs anyway.
Okay, that's good to know because that's sort of what we've been doing with our at least with the summer students, but we still have had throughout. I know there's been a few students that ran into that problem when they got close to graduating. There was only 1 or 2 classes they still needed to take. So I guess it was just, has anybody, done a partial stipend for somebody maybe who's only needed in 1 semester, maybe fall semester, they only need to take 6 credits. What we've done is we've asked them if they could, take the 6 credits that they need and then look at our classes and see. We offer a lot of Native American studies classes. We have a language program that's very applicable to, them, what they're going to be doing when they go and teach. It's not necessarily on our program sheets, but it certainly wouldn't be a waste of time. So
Right.
we've asked them, to pick up 12 credits and maybe, but could we, I guess that's the question, is if you have that type of situation and somebody only needs, 6 credits this semester, could you do a partial stipend?
So I don't think that partial stipends are allowed. The student would still have to be considered a full-time student. And if it's full-time because it's 3 credits or if it's 6 credits, I think it's based on the school. But they would still have to, unfortunately, be considered a full-time student.
Okay. Well, and that's, I guess that's what we've been doing, is we've just added, had them add some classes to get the 12. And like I said, we have a list of classes that we think would be very applicable to their teacher training. But I thought, I'm going to bring that up because that's actually been a question that was asked of us from some of our participants, if it's possible to just do a partial stipend. So, all right. Thank you.
Oh, great question. And thanks everyone for sharing what you're doing. Any other questions, or maybe you want to share about how you do participant stipends in your program? No? Okay. Have we exhausted that topic? If maybe, later on, as we're going through this talking circle, a question pops in your head, you're always welcome to ask the question. So we'll move on. The next topic really for discussion and that was of interest to your peers was around service payback. And so here are some of our questions to sort of seed the conversation. The first one is, how do you help your participants secure qualifying employment for service payback? You can see what are the challenges, and then what would be helpful, if anything, for OIE to provide to assist with service payback. Again, you can start with the top question and answer that, or you can answer any one that really sort of resonates with you. Or if there's any questions that these questions sort of prompt in yourself, you can go ahead and ask that question of your peers. Anyone want to share how you do your service payback?
I'm sorry to be asking all the questions. I don't mean to take somebody else's time, but I do have a question about actually the cash payback. Could I ask that now, or should that wait for later?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So this is a situation that we had. If a student exited the program prior to completion, then of course they have to set up a cash payback option or some sort of a payment plan. The student did not do that. So as it's my understanding, it went into collections. And so now there is a, cash being paid back. I don't know if they're garnishing wages or whatever. Once that gets to that point, when I look at, when I get onto the OIU website and I look at the students, will they still show up as fulfillment not in progress? Or will it now show up as fulfillment in progress because they were referred for collections, and they are now, there is money coming out of their checks, I guess, to pay, for this cash payback.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if I'm expecting that to change from fulfillment not in progress to fulfillment in progress.
Bianca, do you have?
Yeah, I can get back to you on that, Susan. I'm not sure. So right now it's saying that it's not being fulfilled currently, but it's being deducted from the
Yeah.
participant.
According, so this, as I was going through the checklist that we were given, because we're at the end of one of our grants, and so it's the final year closeout. And I was looking at all of our participants, and we're supposed to make sure that, everybody is listed as, I believe it's fulfillment in progress. If it's not service payback, if it was cash payback, it should show fulfillment in progress. Well, this student is showing fulfillment not in progress, but according to her, she's been, they've been taking money out of her because she works for one of our daycare facilities, and money is being taken out of her checks to, for her cash payback. We were assuming it was because they were garnishing her wages. We didn't ask it's kind of a personal question, so we didn't ask that of her, but she's still showing up as fulfillment not in progress. So I was just wondering if that ever gets changed to fulfillment in progress, because she is having cash being taken out for her. So
Yeah, let me see. I'll ask our contractors.
Okay.
They'll know a little bit more about the payback
Yeah.
system.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, that would be your PPDCS system. And so.
And I have been in contact with them. We've been kind of
Great.
emailing back and forth, and I did hear from them that she was provided an invoice to pay back, and I think it finally got to the point where they're just garnishing her wages now. Money's being taken out, but it's still showing up in the system as fulfillment not in progress. So I'm just, from my standpoint, wondering if that's supposed to change, or if because it went into collections, maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's a
Thank you.
good question. Thank you. All right. Anyone else want to share how they do their service payback with their participants? Or any questions that you may have that you might want to ask your peers again? Okay. If there's nothing, we will move forward. Another topic that came up, and I think it was Carmelita who sort of talked about, or was it Susan, about the option and the availability for some of your teachers to take some STEAM program courses that help with either STEM or STEAM. And so we wanted to move into that discussion. And at first we wanted to just get some definitions about what STEM and STEAM mean. And so let me go ahead and see if I can, this video will play. A second. Oh, shucks. It's not going to do it. Let's move here. Sorry about that. That didn't work. What we wanted to get to was really talking about, I mean, there's the STEM and the STEAM that is sort of like, I don't want to say it's generic, but it's sort of broadly used. And then there is this whole new, not new, but a whole revival of a native STEAM. And so really the definition that I've seen most used around, how do you differentiate between native STEAM and sort of the regular STEAM is really, for native STEAM, that learning is framed within local knowledge, and it is, it relates to local practices in land and place-based ways, and can often enhance the relevance and meaning of STEM or STEAM for Indigenous students and their communities. So again, one of the key components that differentiates native STEAM from regular STEAM is that it is sort of place-based and land-based, and the practices that are associated with land. Let's hope that this video works. Let me go ahead and, so I wanted to share this video that has a community that's actually engaged in STEAM, and This is gonna bum me out if this doesn't work. Hmm. I'm so sorry, guys. Why is that not video? Dang it. Hold on a sec. Let me get out. Oops. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. There we go. Let me see if I can share this and it'll. Hmm. Current slide, and let me share this. Let's see if this works. Ugh, so irritating. Amazing, I'm sharing. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Oh, I'm so bummed. Dang it. Try
Is
it.
there a link you can maybe give us and we can look
Yeah.
at?
Yeah, let me try and. Get that here. Let me try and get to the video. Sorry about that, guys. Let me get to the link. Okay, hold on. Here it goes. Stop. Let me share this. So we're gonna have to look at it a little clunky, but I hope it'll actually play now.
I believe that any student can learn better if we bring in ideas from their place. I think that's very valuable for Native community because we're also bringing in aspects of their culture that can add to our instruction.
I was taught the nonlinear point of view by my grandmother and my elders when I was young. You know, consider all 5 senses, you know, you have a special relationship with the environment. You have no ownership over the environment. The only things you own are what was taken out of the environment or out of the living environment. And that's the only thing you possess, like a house or a chair or a car, that sort of thing. When I went to school, there was a totally different point of view, the linear point of view. Science is a good example of that linear view. I was taught that for 12 years straight. I lost the nonlinear point of view during that time. It was reinforced with how many years after school in college. Basically, I was living in that linear world, and it was probably the most loneliest time of my life. So I left school, came back, and got into school with a forestry program where I could reconnect with the environment. We're starting, as we collaborate more as tribes, we get back to a time back when we used to collaborate very closely with trade, knowledge, you know, plant knowledge, that sort of thing. Traditions, religious ceremonies were traded back and forth. I think we're going to come closer together again to that free giving back and forth that we used to have. before European contact. I think it's really imperative that we do combine both in order to use the native point of view that we have, but also the scientific tools with the linear thought process. I think it's important. It's imperative for us to, for our survival in the future.
A lot of the indigenous cultures throughout the world held at their core a relationship with a world that was beyond the visual and just the logical, what the mind could figure. So I think a lot of education that's science education in particular that has been foisted upon the tribes throughout the education invasion, we could call it, has them focusing on just the 2 or 3 feet in front of them, not recognizing the interconnectedness of everything that's around.
We all might have different perspectives and we might all have different questions, but what does that mean for what to write in the curriculum? What does that mean for how to support teachers and doing some of these, meeting these broader goals that we have for the students?
So that's just looking at one community and how they are engaged and how they're looking at STEAM from a Native perspective. I wanted to share another video from another community, sort of closer to my home. We'll just watch this a little bit. Sure.
There's normally kahaha and pua inside of this pond because there's not really any predators. And these fish like to come into here because there's a lot of food. Yeah. It's called chain diatoms. It's called that because when it's high tide, it's full of bubbles, and oxygen. So at high tide, it floats up to the surface. That's why it's called chain diatoms.
For many years, my students would come here to Haleolono, and this would be their classroom. And teaching them science, teaching them to engage and be with the environment was a challenging task. And I didn't realize how different the rearing of our students were from our generation.
And in my generation, it was protesting. In their generation, it's protecting. I think some of that is due to the movement around education. So where I would like to see graduates go is that we no longer need to protect, because that's the way we think in the decision-making seats already.
Olelo ho ke ono ke ha kamana o Haleolono.
Igo o nina
Ai, ikia mako ke hana ikela. E kai a. Apo, ai, apa e Helena oko I ka loko I a o. Haleolono. Ai, polole. So what is Papakumakawalu? In this space and time, Papakumakawalu is the process by which we relate to, engage with, and understand our natural environment through a process of being a kilo, being able to observe what's around us. this is Papa Hulilani, or this is Papa Hulipunua, this is Papa Hanamoku, and this is how all of those things interrelate with each other. And being able to makavalu or analyze what is happening in the environment, analyze things that we're pulling out from our traditional data sources.
What's different, and I see with our Kinki now, is that they look at the world through those lenses. So when they look at the sky, they're not just seeing clouds, they're seeing that that's a part of Papahulilani, that's a Keao. Okay. So that's just I would just want to share some different ways that Native STEAM is being engaged in across Native communities. Let me switch back to a regular station. Hold on. Get back to the PowerPoint. Okay, let me share this screen. Here we go. And so here's some of the questions. I mean, you sort of see how different communities are engaged with Native STEAM, and a lot of it is around place-based, the integration of both ancestral and modern day science, and engaging definitely within the environment and within the cultural practices. So given that, and now thinking about your programs, how are, maybe you're doing some of this already, how are you equipping teachers to teach in culturally relevant STEAM learning environments? Are there unique challenges that these educators face, and how can you provide opportunities to develop their capacity in this area? If any of you are providing this type of experience for your participants, if you wouldn't mind coming off of mute and sharing, or maybe you have plans to do it and would like to share how you're going to go about doing some of that teacher training, and maybe how that might be different from the current teacher training program that you are providing, if there is a difference. Any thoughts?
Hello, this is Sharon Paraguay from Little Bighorn College. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Sharon. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Doing this the last couple of summers, particularly because we have more flexibility. What we've done is with our integrated arts for junior gen courses, as well as the PE courses. We've been trying to, I saw go back last summer as part of the integrated arts, and another class that we're teaching, which was storytelling and children's lit combination, was to go to our historical sites within the territorial area. So that was within 150-mile area. Just if we went to the entire territorial area, it would be several days out. But so within, so we took the students on several different field trips per se to these sites. We had storytellers, and we had also oral historians come in and talk about the place, the events that happen, things that occurred in that area. And so we did that several times throughout the summer. That was last year. This year, and we've done other things with the storytelling. We had storytellers come in and talk with the students. With COVID, I had to use YouTube. We had some that were on the YouTube channel, and then also individuals just joining us via the Zoom. And so we've done that. So this summer, first part of this month, we provided the Indigenous Games certification for our students. And so we had 3 days of Indigenous Games activities. And then we're also having them, and then with the integrated arts, particularly this summer, we're focusing on traditional arts. I also teach the Crow Indian art. And so, and our students take that class as well.
Yeah.
And so we've part of our the AA program as well as the upper division program, we are integrating the language and culture into the classes.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for sharing. That's great. I mean, when you think about like the arts and cultural practices, you know, like the making of like implements to even make maybe the product, you know, there's a whole bunch of like science. It's not like you can go out to, you know, a craft store and purchase the materials you would need, right? You actually probably have to grow it, then you have to harvest it, and then you have to fashion it into a tool or into that functional art piece, I want to say, whether it's clothing or implements for dancing or for, you know, doing like an activity. So the arts and the integration, there's so much there, right? From being able to grow your own materials in order to fashion, again, like I said, the tools or the implements or the functional arts like bowls and, you know, carrying.
then-
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt. The other thing that we're adding is the Upsalake science.
Oh,
And so that's something that for at the Little Bighorn College level will be one of the courses that will be required for students to graduate, just like we do the Crow language.
wow, that's nice. Can you explain a little bit about that science? What was the name again?
Well, the Upsalake science, it's being taught by our dean. It was something that we've all talked about. He was willing to pilot it. And the idea will be cross-referenced within Crow studies and with our science. It's looking at the broad base, the plants, the stars,
Nice.
astronomy, also the stories. So it's an integration actually of the stories. Just to give you an example, one of our faculty wrote the book, The Stars We Know, which is based on stories, origin stories of the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper. And so utilizing that concept of the integration of Crow thought philosophy in the video, it talks about the spiritual connectedness to our whole environment. That's the approach with this class.
Wow, that is awesome. That's exciting. I'd love to hear about that, you know, and how the teachers are going through it and what they're thinking about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else like venturing in or have been doing it for a while? Any sort of native STEM, STEAM, or maybe it's not native, maybe it's, you know, of the broader sort of context around STEM and STEAM and how, you know, how you are working with and supporting teachers to be able to flourish in those learning environments, and maybe some things that might be unique that don't maybe get taught in other teacher training programs. No. Alrighty, well, let's move on. We're actually ready to sort of wrap up our time. Are there any questions, whether it's related to this topic or maybe some other questions that you'd like to pose to your peers?
I do have one question, sort of off topic of what we've talked about today, but Have we been given a date yet for no cost extensions?
I'll let Bianca respond to that.
There was an official date. Hold on one second. I'll put it in the chat in a second.
Thank
Find
you.
it.
Thank you, Bianca. Any other questions? And it off topic is all right by me. This is a great place to ask a question. If not, we'll move on to sort of closing up our time today. Just wanted to go over some upcoming events, but before we get into that, I wanted to just remind you folks, you should have gotten an email that has the survey from the project directors meeting we had the first week in June. If you did not do the survey during the project directors meeting, if you wouldn't mind going back to your email and completing that survey, it really gives us some great ideas for like how we can improve the project directors meeting for the next year. So again, look through that email. It probably came from our oie@seiservices.com email, and go ahead and complete that survey. And I see that Bianca put in the chat, August 18th is the due date for no cost extensions. Thanks, Bianca. Also, we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put up the poll here, the end of event poll. We'd love for you to take a moment to complete that poll. That really, again, gives us feedback that we actually use in order to make these talking circles and our other PD events meaningful to you and impactful and, you know, relatable to what our top of sort of questions and top of hot topics for PD grantees. So while you're doing that, we'll just sort of close out around some upcoming events. This summer, we are going to be having a Native American Language Resource Center summer session on how to open and start a language immersion school. Also, of course, we'll be having our next PD program talking circle on August 23rd. So you want to make sure you have that on your calendar. If you didn't get the invite, please let us know by emailing oie@seiservices.com. Also, don't forget, we have our monthly office hours coming up. It's usually every fourth Thursday of each month. And that will be tomorrow, June 22nd. And then the next one will be in July 27th. I know most of you folks have been at office hours, but again, it's just an hour for you to pop in and pop out, ask your questions, or even we get a lot of you that just sort of sit in and listen to all of the different questions coming from all of the different grant programs. And then it looks like in the chat, we're just having a discussion about the no cost extension. There we go. Carmen, Bianca.
Yeah, I can speak on it just a little bit. Yeah, so the grantees that are ending would be the 2018 PD grants. The due date again will be August 18th. If you are planning on requesting a no cost extension, you do have to make sure that you have some goals you still need to complete. Of course, if like participants are still in progress, that needs to be stated, which goals, the budget you have to complete it, and kind of just how you'll do it. There's not a form. You'll submit everything by email to me. And, you know, I will let you know, and also include how long you want your no cost extension. You can have up to 12 months, but if you do not need all of the 12 months and you want to end in January, because the cohort's ending, then you can state that, you know, you only need that amount of months. So you do not have to go up to 12 months, but you have up to 12 months for your no cost extension.
Awesome. Thanks, Bianca.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm just gonna, all righty. The other thing is we are in the summer months, so but OIE, your technical assistant team is still here. If you need to get in contact with us you see our email there. You can also continue to schedule coaching sessions. You know, a lot of times we do a lot of coaching sessions around like APR time. It's very sort of like task specific, but we also are available to be like thought partners, to sort of work with you on any maybe new programs that you sort of want to pitch and have someone to talk with about. That's also, you can also use our coaching sessions for that as well. So you can see right there is the Calendly link. You can always, I know you folks have those already, you can always sign up for an online one-on-one support session. And then here's the contact information again for Bianca, as well as for your PDCS site and program. And then again, the OIE technical assistance team. Want to thank you for joining. Thank you for all of the great sharing of the programs regarding stipends and your service payback, as well as the amazing STEM and STEAM work that you're doing. Thank you, folks, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Aloha.